Dear students, you are welcome in this class. I am Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Principal Scientist from Division of Agronomy, ICR, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Pusa Campus, New Delhi. This lecture in continuation to the previous lecture where we studied certain topics, and today we are going to discuss different components of soil fertility. What are the reasons for decline in soil fertility? What are the current status? What is the current status of soil fertility in India? And topics like this we are going to discuss. And I have already discussed this decomposition, fertilizer, humification terminology. And then we tried to define the soil fertility. And then we have seen the difference in plant nutrition and soil fertility. And then we could know something about mineral nutrition. And then three principles of soil fertility: law of minimum, synchrony, and nutrient cycling. Then we have seen in nutrient cycling the inputs and outputs. And then we tried to understand differences in soil fertility and productivity and relationship between soil fertility and productivity. We also discussed this. Characteristics of highly productive and fertile soil. What characteristics should be there in an ideal soil? We discussed it and also seen the differences in soil fertility and soil productivity. So today we start with the topic current status of soil fertility in India. So you might be knowing about the rating chart of available nutrients and also carbon. So carbon rating is low, medium, high, less than 0.05, 0.05 to 0.75 is medium, and more than 0.75 is high. In case of available nitrogen, less than 280, 280 to 560, and more than 560. So I just want to know from the students what is included in available nitrogen. What forms of nitrogen are there in available nitrogen? Shubham. Available nitrogen. It is very easy to say available nitrogen. For example, in case of available phosphorus, it is mostly Shubham or anybody else. Prakash, there are two Prakash.
Sir, in case of phosphorus, it can be orthophosphorus and H3PO4 negative. And in case of nitrogen, NO3 negative, NH4 positive.
Okay. And besides this, NH4 and NO3. So actually, Shubham, one term is there, mineral nitrogen. So mineral nitrogen means nitrogen in the form of ammonium and nitrate. That is mineral nitrogen. And also NO2. But NO2 quantity is very insignificant in the soil. At any particular point of time, it is normally not detectable. Very little quantity. Because nature has made NO2 as very unstable. Otherwise, it will become poisonous to microbes and plants. So therefore, ammonical form and nitrate form, they are a part of the available nitrogen, plus readily oxidizable nitrogen. Readily oxidizable nitrogen. So what you measure by this Subaiya and Asija method, that is your available nitrogen. So in this case, you can see level of soil fertility in Indian soil. Available K is less than 108 and 108 to 280 and more than 280. Available phosphorus is less than 10 and 10 to 24.6. You can consider it as 25 also. And remember, this is in the form of P, not P2O5. More than 240, 24.6. Similarly, K is in form of available K only, not K2O. Levels of soil fertility in Indian soil. So this was the very exhaustive study done by Mosara 2002. So it was suggested that nitrogen was low in 63% samples. 63% samples, and 26% samples were medium, and 11% were high. And then phosphorus, 42% were low, and 38% medium, and 20% high. And potassium, 13% low, 37% medium, and 50% high. So they have taken 3.65 million soil analysis data collected from 533 soil testing labs, representing 450 districts in the country. That time, we used to have, I think, 450 something districts. So you can see this was pan-India soil sampling, and you can see that most of the samples were deficient in nitrogen, and you can see phosphorus. So these were earlier results. And now, if you see the situation today, it is changing very fast. Changing fast means our fertility is declining very rapidly. Now you see deficiency of micronutrients in Indian soil, percentage soil sample deficient. It was reported by Shukla and Behra. And you can see boron was deficient in 33% soil samples, copper in 8%, iron 15%, manganese 6%, and zinc 44%, and molybdenum 13%. So you can see primarily zinc and boron. You can see they were more deficient compared to other micronutrients. So just we have seen status of macronutrients or primary nutrients and micronutrients. Now see organic matter. Organic matter is also very important part of soil fertility. And normally a soil under tropical conditions should have around 2% soil organic matter. At least 2% soil organic matter should be there in the soil, ideally. So long-term experiments in rice wheat cropping system estimated soil organic carbon. SOC means soil organic carbon. If you want to convert soil organic carbon to soil organic matter, you can multiply by the factor. You can multiply by the factor. Yeah, anybody?
1.724.
Very good. So you can convert it into SOM. So it declined over time despite adequate NPK fertilization. Next is rice wheat cropping system belt. Soil organic carbon declined from 0.5% in 1960s to 0.2% in 1990s. So you can see that it is even less than 0.5%. If it is less than 0.5%, your soil is deficient in carbon. And you can see it was 0.2% in 1990s. And what would be status today? So the decreased levels of plant nutrients and soil organic matter, soil organic carbon is a serious threat to sustainable food production. If our soils are getting deficient in carbon or organic matter, definitely it will be a serious threat. And if we are not able to conserve carbon in the soil or organic matter, that means we are also not helping this controlling the environmental pollution. We are not harvesting carbon dioxide from atmosphere into the soil. Urgent need to understand the causes for the decline in soil fertility to find efficient strategies to restore it. Therefore, it is urgently required to know the reason why the soil fertility is going down. What are the reasons? We need to understand it. Now, I want to show you the latest data on current status of soil fertility in India. Now, dear students, you can see a new classification is there about fertility status of soil in India. So you can see organic carbon, it has been divided into 5 classes now. So less than 0.25 is very low. Then one more class, less than 0.25 to 0.5. And then medium is your 0.5 to 0.75. High 0.75 to 1, and very high more than 1%. This is organic carbon. If you want to refer it in terms of organic matter, multiply it by 1.724. Available nitrogen, it is started, if you last rating chart see, it is started with less than 280. There was no any class very low and very high. So in this case, you can see available nitrogen less than 140 very low, then 140 to 280, 280 to 560, and so on. Similarly, available phosphorus less than 5, 5 to 10, and in the end, you can see it is more than 40 kilogram P, available P per hectare. Then available K less than 60, 60 to 120, and last you see very high, or more than 560. So this is very important table, and now this table is being used to classify soil whether they are sufficient in particular nutrient or they are deficient. Now we can have two classes based upon these results or these kind of chart. We can have two classes of soil fertility with respect to individual nutrients. So very low, low, and medium. If you have, for example, if you have organic carbon very low, low, and even medium, it will be considered as deficient. It will be considered as deficient. That soil is deficient in carbon. Means soils which are less than, containing less than 0.75% soil organic carbon are deficient in organic carbon. And soils which have more than 0.75, more than 0.75 or even more than 1, they are considered as soils sufficient in organic carbon. Similarly, you can see soils which are having even up to 560 kg of available nitrogen. They fall in the group of soils deficient in nitrogen. And more than 560 means soil is sufficient in nitrogen. And then available P, it starts from less than 5 to 25. So up to this, soil is deficient. And if it is more or 25 or more, then it is sufficient. Similarly, you see the micronutrients. So these are actually critical levels of micronutrients in soil. So boron, if boron is more than 0.5 ppm in soil, that means it is sufficient. If it is less than 0.5, it is insufficient or deficient. For the micronutrient, we do not have classes like low, very low, medium, high, so on. In this case, only one parameter is there, that is critical level of the micronutrient. So in this case, it is 0.5 for boron. Copper should be more than 2 ppm if you want sufficient level of copper in the soil. Iron more than 4.5, manganese more than 2 ppm, sulfur more than 10 ppm, and zinc more than 0.6 ppm. So these are actually critical level. And if you want sufficiency level of these micronutrients, this should be more than this value. If they are less than this value, that means soil is deficient in that particular micronutrient. Is it clear to everyone, or you have any doubt? Is it clear? Harinder, are you there? Harinder Kumar? Harinder Kumar? Indrani Saha? Indrani
Yes,
Saha?
sir.
Are, okay. Pawan
Sir,
Panjabe?
Yes, sir.
sir,
Yes.
actually,
Yes, Indrani. Speak.
I am trying, but network is not there. That's why I cannot join.
Okay. And then
Sir,
Shruti?
in
Yes,
Jharkhand
sir.
campus, network connection is very poor.
Okay, I heard it. Thank you. Shwetans, are you there? Soumya, Bhoi? Kavya,
Yes, sir.
Prakash, Dhanwan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is your attendance actually. Subhrata is there. Naveen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tanmay is there. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, fine. Any question? Now, just now you have seen the classification, the latest classification of nutrients, whether they are low, high, medium, something. Actually, this kind of classification is being followed by or adopted by Soil Health Card Scheme, National Scheme on Soil Health Card. So they are following this kind of classification. And you would be surprised to see what is the current status of soil fertility in India. So actually, this scheme started in 2014-15 by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Soil Health Card Scheme. And it was part of the National Mission of Sustainable Agriculture, NMSA, National Mission of Sustainable Agriculture. And what did they do? They took 5.27 crore soil samples during first cycle and second cycle. First cycle was for year 2015-16 to 2016-17, and this is for 1 year. And then second cycle was 17-18 to 18-19. So you can see these were the years when the samples were collected, and there were two cycles, cycle 1 and cycle 2, and sample number was 5.27 crores. So what kind of all right, now you see the results. They have combined result of cycle 1 and result of cycle 2. This is report by Khurana and Kumar 2022. So you can see the current status of carbon, soil organic carbon in Indian soil. You would be shocked to see it, that organic carbon was deficient in 85% samples of India. Only 15% were having sufficient levels. However, 85%, because there are two classes only now. 85% samples were deficient and only 15% were sufficient. Sufficient means they were having levels, high levels or very high levels. Now see nitrogen, 97% were deficient in nitrogen, 83% deficient in phosphorus, and 71% deficient in potassium, 47% deficient in boron, 6% deficient in copper. So you can see copper is not a major issue. And then 37% samples were deficient in iron, 16% in manganese, 36% in sulfur, and 39% in zinc. So this was the situation about current status of fertility in India. So you can see most of the important nutrients, NPK and carbon, they are deficient in Indian soil. Now you see this organic carbon deficiency in different states. What was the situation? Most of the states it was deficient, but some states were happy also. You can see Meghalaya. Meghalaya only 21% samples were deficient. Meghalaya, Ladakh, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Sikkim. Mostly these are hilly states. You can see even Himachal Pradesh. So condition was a bit better regarding organic carbon in soil is concerned. But you see the state like Haryana, 99% samples were deficient in carbon, organic carbon. Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. So these are actually areas where we have intensive cultivation, more crops, exhaustive crops are taken. Now, similarly, you can see the data for nitrogen deficiency. For nitrogen deficiency, you can see starting from Andaman, Nicobar Island, Bihar, Delhi, Haryana, Kerala, Manipur, Mizoram, Odisha, Puducherry, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Uttar Pradesh. Up to these, 100% samples were deficient in nitrogen. And then you can see 99, 99, it's almost 100%. So most of the Indian soils are surely deficient in nitrogen. Now, almost same is the story for phosphorus deficiency. You can see Delhi, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Puducherry, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. You can go through this data and see the situation. Similarly, for potassium, Potassium also, you can see certain states have better conditions, like Maharashtra have only 37% samples deficient, Delhi 54, Gujarat. But you see the states like Mizoram, UP, Assam, Bihar, Tripura, Jammu, Kashmir, Meghalaya, potassium is deficient. So now I hope you could follow the current status of fertility. It is really very alarming situation where we have deficiencies of wider deficiencies of organic carbon, NPK, and some micronutrients like zinc and boron. So after this current status, we move to the next topic, that is classification of soil fertility. So soil fertility was classified by Abbott and Murphy into three classes: biological soil fertility, physical soil fertility, and chemical soil fertility. So sometimes a question may come to you, what are different classes of soil fertility? So this is the answer. So what is biological soil fertility? It is capacity of organism living in soil to contribute to the nutritional requirement of plants or crops and foraging animals for productivity, reproduction, and quality, while maintaining biological processes that contribute positively to the physical and chemical state of the soil. So in this case, biological soil fertility means, in simple words, it is actually contribution of soil organism to meet out the nutrition part nutrient requirement of the crop. So major role of organism is in nutrient fixation and mobilization, and also in decomposition. So they have their important role and they contribute towards soil fertility. So contribution of organism in soil fertility is your biological soil fertility. Similarly, there are certain chemical properties that help in the supply of the nutrients, availability and supply of the nutrients. So capacity of soil to provide a suitable chemical and nutritional environment for the plants and foraging animals for productivity, reproduction, and quality in a way that supports beneficial soil, physical and biological processes, including those involving nutrient cycle. So that part is your chemical soil fertility. And then similarly, you got physical soil fertility, the capacity of soil to provide physical conditions that support plant productivity, reproduction, and quality without leading to loss of soil structure or erosion, and supporting soil biological and chemical processes. So you see, there are number of, actually, these are properties also. You can call them properties also, physical properties, chemical properties, and biological properties. If you combine them, it becomes, they would be responsible for functioning of the soil, particularly with respect to nutrient availability or soil fertility. Now you can see influence of management practices on soil biological process and change to soil fertility. Means number of operations are there, number of agricultural practices are there. How these management practices or crop management practices will affect the soil biological processes, and in the end, how it will change the soil fertility. So you can see there are 5-6 points here. If you add organic matter into the soil, this is management option. Once the organic matter is added to the soil, there is surely increase in the microbial population. It will start decomposing the organic matter, and for this, it will take some nutrients from the soil. And also because of that, immobilization of nitrate due to high CN ratio. These organic residue, when you add into the soil, they have wider CN ratio. Therefore, certain available nutrients which were meant for the plant are taken up by the microbes. So what changes will happen to the chemical fertility? If you are adding organic matter, biological process means improvement in number of microbes, their biomass, and consumption of available nitrogen by the microbes. That is immobilization. Chemical fertility increase availability of nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. So by the end of decomposition of organic matter, when the mineralization is complete, you will get nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, increased TEC, mainly because of production of humus. And finally, you will get decrease in CN ratio. And if you see a role of organic matter on physical fertility, improved soil structure through aggregation because of production of humus and increased microbial growth, you will get better aggregation. And once you have better aggregation, improvement in soil structure, then water holding capacity of the soil will improve. So this is how organic matter is influencing all the three kind of fertility or three kind of properties. What crop rotations will do? So they will actually, if you follow crop rotations, crops of different family, different genus and characteristics, then the kind and variety of root exudate or rhizodeposition improves in soil. Variety of root exudate will be there if you rotate the crop. That means similarly, it will attract variable community of the microbes. You will have more variety, more species of microbes if you follow crop rotation. And decrease in CN ratio and increase localized soil heterogeneity. Because of this adoption of crop rotation and release of root exudate, there may be soil heterogeneity. Because the rhizospheric soil will be slightly or will be different from bulk soil, from the rest of the soil. So it is possible you can get soil heterogeneity. Now, next management option is tillage. If you go for minimum tillage or no tillage, what will happen to three properties or three kind of fertility? So if you have minimum tillage, people reported that there is increase in fauna and flora in the soil and their diversity and their biomass. So it is good for the soil biological processes. Now, changes to soil chemical fertility. Initially, nutrient immobilization can happen because you are adding residues to the surface. And finally, in the end, increased nutrient release. Changes to physical fertility, improved soil structure through aggregation and water holding capacity. So in the end, you will get better. So advantages of no tillage are there. Then controlled traffic means if you reduce the traffic in the field, then better root and microbial growth. Because soil compaction will reduce if you have controlled traffic. So better root growth and better microbial growth. Because if you have controlled traffic, then there will be good exchange or circulation of gases into the soil. Means the microbes will get sufficient supply of oxygen or air. So therefore, if you have controlled traffic, then you can have better root growth and microbial growth. And then chemical fertility, increased availability of nutrients, particularly oxygen. Increased total porosity and aeration. Now, what happens when you add fertilizer at high rate? So high P, particularly if your phosphatic fertilizer is added, mycorrhizal colonization, high nitrogen inhibits N2 fixation. So these are some of the effects of fertilizer addition on biological processes. Decreased availability of nutrients derived from soil biological processes, changes in soil pH because of fertilizer, and no appreciable effect on soil texture. Now you see different factors affecting soil fertility, components of soil fertility. So answer is same. If I ask you a question, what are the factors, what are the things, what are the internal and external things or characteristics that affect soil fertility? Or if we ask components of soil fertility, answer will be same. So you can see schematic diagram showing different components of soil fertility or factors affecting soil fertility. So you can see soil depth, soil structure, soil texture, soil aeration, soil color, soil temperature, leaching, soil pH, organic matter, cation exchange capacity, content of nutrients, content of toxic substances, activity of soil organisms. So you can have more factors that affect soil fertility, but I have listed the important one. And now we can end it here and move to the next link. Only 2 minutes are left, so I will stop here. So let us discuss first component, that is soil depth. So it is the depth to which plant roots can penetrate the soil. It decides the volume of soil accessible to the root system of the crops. Shallower soils are generally less fertile as deeper soils. Soil depth affects root growth, available water, and nutrients. So you can see soil depth is very, very important. If you have shallower root depth, say hardly 30 centimeters, 20 centimeters, then you cannot have good growth of the roots and also good growth of the plant. Because in this case, after the soil, you have a bedrock or you have rocks or very hard material that cannot be penetrated by roots. So therefore, normally, deeper the soil, fertile is the soil. Shallower soils are less fertile. Soil depth affects root growth, available water, and nutrients. So you can see three examples here, A, B, C. So you can see in A, the rooting depth or soil depth is shallow. In B, it can be medium. So shallow soil depth means normally less than 50 centimeters. For shallow depth, for medium depth, it's considered 50 to 90 centimeters. And deeper soil. So deep soil depth is more than 90 centimeters. Next is soil structure. Soil structure is very, very important. Soil structure is important for three reasons or three things. Number one, if you have good soil structure, you will have good root growth. Number two, good water holding capacity. And number three, good microbial growth. So you need ideal soil structure for better aeration, better water holding capacity, better root growth, and better microbial growth. If your soil structure is disturbed, all these four functions will be disturbed. Normally, crumbly structure is considered as good and single-grained structure is bad. So you need aggregation in soil for better soil structure. So you can see now the slide. The arrangement of elementary soil particles into aggregate soil structure. A good structured soil will have soil particles joined together to make the stable aggregates. Stable aggregates make the framework for soil spaces. They also make available the spaces for soil organisms. Poor soil structure limits the supply and availability of essential nutrients for plant growth. So you need ideal soil structure, and I suggest students to study soil structure in detail. What is soil structure? What are its different kinds? And which soil structure is good for crop production or good for agriculture? You must learn it. And as I told you, there are four important roles in microbial growth, root growth, aeration, and your improved water holding capacity. Now see, soil texture is also important. It is relative proportion of different particle size, sand, silt, clay, fractions in the soil. And it influences number of things like quantity of stored nutrients, just a minute. Quantity of stored nutrients, soil aeration, pore space distribution, drainage characteristics, and water holding capacity. So soil texture is also important, particularly in aeration and your water holding capacity. So what kind of soil texture would be good? A soil which is having more sand, a soil which is having more clay. Which one do you expect will be more fertile? This soil texture, you have number of soil textures: sandy loam, sandy soils, clay loam, silty loam, sandy clay loam. So many varieties of textures are there. So what kind of texture? Is it one is coarse texture and one is fine texture, fine texture soil. So which kind of texture will be good for soil fertility? See, we are discussing factor affecting soil fertility. So soil texture, which texture is good for fertility? Just I am asking two: coarse texture soil and fine texture soil. So you answered fine texture soil. So definitely fine texture soil will be having more fertility than Now questions come, why it will be having more fertility? Fine texture soils over coarse texture soils. Why it will be having higher fertility? Fine texture soils over coarse texture soils. Yeah, Prakash. Why a fine texture soil would have higher fertility than coarse texture soil? This, I think you don't want to speak, otherwise it is very simple question.
Sir, fine texture soil having more organic matter. It will hold more organic matters.
More organic than more nutrients.
In fine texture soil, the C will be more.
The CS is more. That is the major answer actually. And why the CS is more? Because it contains more organic matter. More organic matter means more humus. So, and also it will have better water levels, better water holding capacity. And if you have good water, then the decomposition of organic matter and so on. So there can be many reasons why fine texture soils are more fertile than coarse texture soils. Now you can see significance of soil texture on fertility. So it is not just PEC, there can be many more aspects on which light soil or coarse texture soil and heavy soil means fine texture soil. So infiltration rate, high, low. High in light soil, low in heavy soil. Permeability, high, low. Plant available water, low and here high. Runoff, low, high. In heavy soils, you can have more runoff because the percolation rates are low. Mechanical resistance, easy and difficult. Root penetration, easy, difficult. Erosion, high in light soil and low in heavy soil. So this is another dimension that you can have more erosion in light soil. So if topmost soil is lost, that means fertility is lost. So you will have more erosion in light soil, therefore fertility can decline. So high and low, low in heavy soil. Transport in water, short distances here, light soil, but here, because more capillaries are there, long distances. Wind erodibility, high, low. Nutritional status, therefore, low and high. So finally, light texture soils are low in fertility and heavy texture soils are high in fertility. Heavy soils, sorry. And CEC low and high. So you can see these differences. Now we go to soil aeration. So actually too much of aeration means if you have too much of aeration, then there will be shortage of water. So you need ideal levels of water and soil and sorry, aeration. So aeration is necessary for the decomposition of organic matter, nutrient availability, microbial activity, root growth, and nutrient and water uptake by plant roots. So there are number of roles that are being played by oxygen. Oxygen is absolutely necessary for the respiration of plant roots. Just you do not consider rice here, but for most of them crops, you need sufficient quantity of oxygen. So oxygen is absolutely necessary for the respiration of plant roots. Poor soil aeration can result in reduced root growth or sometimes death of plants in many cases. Solubility of iron and manganese may reach toxic levels under waterlogged conditions. Nitrates can be reduced. So I think you all understand about it. So normally a soil which is not well aerated, it will have lower fertility compared to the soil which is well aerated. And leaching, if you have more leaching from the soil, leaching of nutrients, that kind of soil may not be fertile compared to the soil where you have lower leaching under identical conditions or under comparable conditions. These kind of points are considered only under comparable conditions. So normally, suppose you have two fields which are close, which are in proximity, and in one field, bigger size, you have more leaching, than the field, other field where you have less leaching. So definitely leaching will reduce the fertility. So as compared to sandy soils, the heavier soils do not need the nutrients as readily as sandy soils. So sandy soils in areas of high rainfall leach more nutrients. Due to higher leaching of nutrients, sandy soils may be considered less fertile as compared to the clay or heavy texture soils. Content of nutrients. If your soil have more nutrients, then it is fertile. If it has less nutrients, then it is less fertile. So you have seen classification or rating chart. So nutrient content of nutrient is necessary. If there are no nutrient, we can say this soil is not fertile. So lower nutrient content in soil suggests that it is low in fertility. Higher content means it is high in fertility. So in a fertile soil, these essential elements should be in right proportion. Now, cation exchange capacity, as someone of you have told, that higher the cation exchange capacity, more nutrients can be held by the soil. Therefore, normally higher cation exchange capacity is related to higher soil fertility. Mont Morillonite clay has high CEC values than kaolinite due to greater negative charges. So soils which are rich in Mont Morillonite may have higher fertility than those with kaolinite. Humus has very high cation exchange capacity. So higher the humus, more fertile is the soil. Higher nutrient storage capacity because of high humus or high CAC means higher soil fertility. A high CEC means that the soil has a good supply of nutrients. In general, a soil having low CEC suggests that it is low in fertility. Now you can see the CEC of different materials, different minerals and humus. So soil humus can have as high as 400, up to 400, but normally it may be 200 to 250. And vermiculite may have 250, smectite may have up to 200, elite very low, around 550, and kaolinite may be around 15, 20. So you can see the cation exchange capacity of different minerals and soil humus. So if you have more vermiculite or more Mont Morillonite, then you will have higher CEC, means fertility will be better than those which have kaolinite. Now, organic matter. Normally, higher the organic matter, better is the fertility normally. And it has been question of research. So it is somewhere around 2%. 2% organic matter is critical level of organic matter in soil under tropical conditions. So at least 2% should be there. Soil generally rich in organic matter is fertile. Organic matter, I think you understand the role, variety of role. I have shown you in the table just now, few minutes back, the role of organic matter in biological, chemical, and physical properties. So more the organic matter, more is fertility. Soil pH, if your pH is ideal, your soil will supply nutrients better. If your pH is too acidic or too alkaline, then those soils are not considered fertile. Content of detrimental or toxic substances. Any soil which contain more chemicals, heavy metals, pesticides, or polythene or other pollutants may be considered less fertile compared to soil which is not having all these toxic materials under comparable conditions. The toxic materials can adversely affect the biological activity, and reduced biological activity in soil may eventually reduce the availability of nutrients. Overall, your polluted soil will have less fertility compared to unpolluted polluted soil under comparable conditions. Quantity and activity of the soil organism. In fact, it is mostly related to soil organic matter and soil pollution. If you have high level of soil organic matter, that means you will have high activity of soil organisms. Similarly, if you have high level of soil pollution, activity of microbes will be less. The reduced population of such a useful organism indicate the poor fertility of the soil. So the indirectly or directly, you can say the presence of higher number of microbes, higher biomass of microbes indicate better fertility compared to lower population. In general, higher the population of useful organism in soil, higher is the fertility. The reduced activity and growth of useful organism indicate the poor fertility. Whatsoever it is, but fertility will be poor. Now, in the end, you can see you have seen number of at least 12, 13 points or reasons because of which soil fertility is low. So in case of India also, you have seen erosion is there, some soil pollution is there, organic matter is declining, your nutrient status is declining, and of course, we do not have much control on the soil depth. It is mostly by default or by nature that some soils are shallow, some are deep. And of course, there were some other aspects like soil structure, texture, leaching, and so on. So number of factors were there that affect the soil fertility. So in the end, what are the possible solutions? If you have low fertility, so identify the problems related to soil fertility. So first of all, it is necessary to identify the problem. So identification of problem is possible only through soil testing or through experience. So because suppose there is less supply of nutrients, the first thing one should do is testing of soil pH. Testing of soil pH is very, very important. Then testing of organic matter. So according to that, we may ameliorate the soil and we may add some amendments also. Number of measures are available to bring the pH to the ideal level. And corrective measures should be applied. Means suppose if it is deficiency of nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, so soil testing will tell us, and then we can put the corrective measures. And corrective measures, mostly it is balanced fertilization and integrated nutrient management, control of erosion, and so on. So now you have seen the factors that govern the soil fertility. And you can also see in the next lecture, I will show you the reasons for declining fertility. And just 5 minutes more, I want to share one more presentation. So now I want to introduce you to the course, this course. I think Vijay must have introduced you, but for my part, I wish to introduce you to this course and just to show you literature, references, some information on journal, website, and what I am going to teach and some journal instructions. Nature and properties of soil, I will resend it because there may be some new students in your batch who don't have it. Therefore, this is excellent book and every one of you should read it. And then Handbook of Plant Nutrition is there. Soil Fertility Management for Sustainable Agriculture. This is for in context to India. And then Plant Nutrition and Soil Fertility Manual by Benton Jones. Marshner's Mineral Nutrition of Higher Plants. Glossary of Science, Soil Science terms. So these are the references I recommend you to go through. It is not that you need to read everything. So you can take the things which is required by you. And this is important book number 7, Soil Fertility Evaluation and Control by C.A. Black, and Mineral Nutrition of Plants, Principles and Practices by F.S. Stein. And besides this, one book is there, which is from Indian Society of Agronomy, Textbook of Plant Nutrient Management. This is in Indian context. So now you are not physically here, but it covers most of the topics related to fertility, history of fertility, living body, and legumes, rotations, and all these subjects of. So many times, dear students, whenever you are in any interview in agronomy or in any other discipline, people ask you, tell us at least 2-3 journal in your subject, in any subject, in subject of soil science, in subject of plant nutrition, in subject of weed science or dry land agriculture. So at least 4 or 5 journals should be known to you. Anybody can ask you, tell me 4 journals in plant nutrition or soil fertility. So I have just listed these journals. And many times you are asked about the editor of the journal. So at least for 3-4 journals, whenever you face any interview in IRI, 4-5 journals name should be there in your mind. And if possible, you should also know the current editor, who is editor of the journal. So this is important. So you can see the list. I will share this PowerPoint. I'll share all the PowerPoints to you. So you can go through the list of the journals. Similarly, some useful websites are www.soas.org. This is for, I think, Soil Science Society of America. And then fertilizer.org, easy to remember, .agronomy.org, wheat.org. So these are useful websites you may be interested in. Now, what topics I am going to cover? Ashok, 5 minutes में आ रहा हूँ. Factors affecting growth of the plant. I think I have taught you in another course, principles of crop production. But if any student who have not attended this lecture, I can deliver for him or her. So you can, those who are interested in this lecture can write me email so I can organize this lecture separately, not common lecture, because most of you have attended this lecture. Then overview and importance of soil fertility, reasons for decline in soil fertility, principles and crop response, soil fertility evaluation, soil fertility management, a role of crop rotations in soil fertility, history of fertility, history of fertilizer, history of soil fertility in India, organic plant nutrition, essential nutrients in different lectures, overview of nutrient use efficiency. So this is definitely huge syllabus, and soil organic matter. These are extra topics I wish to teach you. They are not part of my syllabus, but I would really like to teach you these subjects also. And for this, we need some extra classes, and it depends really upon your interest. I will not press the things on you. And but one thing I wish to tell you that you don't bother about the marks or the results. If you want to learn whatever we are capable of, so these are some extra topics like the movement of nutrients in soil and their uptake, quantitative relationship between nutrient supply and plant growth, problems of supply and availability of nutrients, soil organism and their role in soil fertility, fertilizer water interaction. This is very important topic. Fundamentals of fertilizer application, fertigation and foliar application of nutrients, nutrient management in cropping systems, in organic farming, economics of fertilizer use, nitrogen in soil, plants and fertilizers, phosphorus in soil, plant and fertilizers, potassium in soil, plants and fertilizers, sulfur in soil, plants and fertilizer, biofertilizer, sustainable soil management. So what I will do, I will circulate these topics to you and you can give your preference. Then I can plan lectures according to that. Rhizospheric flora and fauna, also fauna, and influence of agronomic practices on them, response of crops to fertilizer, concepts of balance and crop nutrition, and INM, site-specific nutrient management, and organic manure. So whatever extra you want to study, I can. So these are the practical numerical exercises on preparation of solutions, organic matter determination, total determination, and determination in plants, soil pH, calculation, and so on. So these are the topics. And finally, you should attend the classes separately, practical and theory. And you can interact with me through email also. If you feel shy to ask question or any doubt, any clarification, you can contact me. I will try to answer as early as possible. So this ends here. Now we have 10 minutes time. So if you want to say anything, any point, you are welcome. You don't have any point? Are you taking interest in the class or just keeping your system on and video on and just reading newspaper? I do not know how much interest you are taking. So anyway, now I ask questions from you. How can we improve soil structure? Dhyan, how can we improve soil structure?
Sir, by plowing by not plowing repeatedly at a particular depth.
Means reduce tillage
And time to time deep tillage.
Deep tillage.
Yes, sir.
Any other practice?
Sir, organic matter management.
Yeah.
That improves soil structure.
Green manuring crops.
Green manuring. Yeah. Actually, once he has said that you go for addition of organic matter, so green manuring is one option. There can be farmyard manure, there can be crop residues, there can be many things. So these are the things we can improve. Now question comes, can we change our soil texture?
Sir, we can change, but it cannot be possible at a large scale.
How can we change it?
Adding sand for a very small volume, like 1 meter cube. Adding more sand can alter the soil texture, but it is not practical in case of, large scale cultivation.
Okay, but if it is sandy soil, and in sandy soil you will add sand.
No, sir. In that case, clay application can also be done. That is marl is that is called marl, I guess, marling.
Excellent. Because your answer was incomplete. You just said that add sand and or clay. You could have said sand, silt or clay can be added to change the texture. Next is how can we change the pH? How can we correct the pH?
Adding chemical amendments, like in case of acid soil, we can add calcium carbonate, or if it is saline soil, we can add gypsum.
Okay. And then how can we overcome the soil pollution? How can we overcome the soil pollution? Means you got soil pollution. Pollution of soil can happen by heavy metals, by pesticides, by chemicals, toxic materials, or many other ingredients can cause soil pollution. So how we can overcome this soil pollution problem? How can we reduce soil pollution? All right.
Sir, by reducing excessive amount of chemical fertilizer and by reducing contamination of heavy metals.
Yeah. So how can we reduce contamination of heavy metals from the soil? So in this case also, there are a number of ways to control the soil pollution, and one is addition of organic matter. Organic matter helps in chelating the heavy metals, and also it increases the cation exchange capacity, and then certain heavy metals can be absorbed by the human. Sometimes I will discuss this in detail. Now I think your time is going to be over shortly. So I end it here, but still, if anybody has any question, I would love to answer them.
Sir, I have a question.
Sure.
In case of soil available nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and also in case of plant nutrient content, we estimate is like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But we have been taught that in case of fertilizer, it comes in P2O5 and K2O form. So, does the nutrients actually come in that kind of form? And when we apply it on fertilizer, what kind of chemical changes are associated with it so that plant can uptake it? Because they don't uptake in P2O and K2O form.
See, for nitrogen, it is not an issue. For nitrogen, they write nitrogen at 46.6% in urea. So this is in the form of N. So for nitrogen, there is no problem. But so far, phosphorus and potassium is concerned. They are written as P2O5 and K2O. But they are not in P2O5 or K2O form in the fertilizer. If you see composition of any fertilizer, you see this, suppose if you see single superphosphate, single superphosphate, what is the composition of single superphosphate?
Monocalcium phosphate and gypsum in 2:3 form.
So okay, because I forgot the formula and you remember, that is fine. So in that case, there is no P2O5. This is P there. This is P there that can be estimated in percentage. So what happened when people were developing fertilizer? Urea contained very large nitrogen, that was 46%. And your phosphatic fertilizer contained less phosphorus. So just to attract, just to have business, that these singles of potassic and phosphatic fertilizer should also have some higher percentage. So just to confuse the buyers, the farmers, it was a trick used by the businessman. This is the answer I got from my professor, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. I asked him same questions long back. So he replied me, Dinesh, it was just for business. Then people unnecessarily put some chemistry that phosphorus cannot remain in elemental form, therefore it is always in oxidized form. This was unnecessarily required thing. I don't know whether I replied correctly or not. You have some additional question?
Sir, we are still calculating, like in the case of numericals, we are still calculating this like P2O5 and K2O. Can we change this?
Yeah, we should. Actually, for your information, I want to tell you that for last 10 years at least in IRA, now no thesis you will find P2O5, you will find P. So we changed it because lot of problems were there. 5003. 3. So actually, at the time to mat aaya karan sir. So what was I talking?
Sir, thesis, NP and K form.
Phosphorus, we have already abandoned it. And in IRE, we don't write it actually. And we suggest to write always P. So even in international paper, national papers, now only from traditional universities and colleges, you will find people write P2O5, but they do not write no more. And we wrote one paper on this. I will share that paper to you. On phosphorus and potassium also. There has been a lot of wrong calculation actually. When we apply phosphorus, it is used as P2O5. And when we calculate the uptake in plant, uptake, I told you available P form 10 to 25. So that is actually P, that is not P2O5. On the other hand, in fertilizer, we are writing P2O5. Just for business purpose, I tell you. No chemistry is there because those business people convince the chemist to write it like this. So on one side, we are applying phosphorus through fertilizer in the form of P2O5, 40 kg P2O5, 20 kg P2O5. But when we report the data, it is in P form. So therefore, when you calculate the phosphorus use efficiency, it will be wrongly calculated. The thesis which use these kind of things, P2O5 for fertilizer rate and P for uptake, those theses have, I need to check, those theses have underestimated, I think, underestimated the phosphorus uptake efficiency, phosphorus use efficiency. So I will send you that paper, very interesting paper, we share with all on this subject. Hope you get the answer. If not,
Thank you, sir.
we will talk in the next lecture. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, bye. Good
Thank
to
you,
see
sir.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you, sir.